Hello and welcome. This is KCSE 2019 Mathematics Paper 1 Revision. We are going to go through this paper question by question, helping you revise for your examination. So before we start, it's important that you don't miss any of these lessons. In order not to miss any of these lessons, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell. This will make you get updated whenever we upload a new video or a lesson. So let's get straight away to question number 1. Question number 1 states that without using a mathematical tables or a calculator, evaluate. So let me write down these values. Evaluate 5.4 divided by 0.025 times 3.6. So the instruction here is without using mathematical tables or a calculator. So this does not mean that you can't use a calculator to check whether your answer is correct. What it means is that your working should not reveal anywhere that you used a calculator. Okay, so how are we going to go about it? So to make our work easier, it's good that we eliminate or get rid of the decimal places. And what we are going to do to get rid of the decimal places, we are going to check both the numerator and the denominator and check the one that has more decimal places. And obviously for this case, the denominator has more decimal places than the numerator. The denominator has 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places, while the numerator has only one decimal place. So what we're going to do is that we're going to multiply by 10,000 on both sides, both the numerator and the denominator, and by doing so we shall have eliminated the decimal places. So this is going to be, okay, for the numerator, 1 0 is going to cancel out with one decimal place, okay, and for the denominator, all the 4 zeros will cancel out the 4 decimal places. So this means that we're going to have on the numerator 54000, okay, and then on the denominator we're going to have 25 times 36. So that way it's going to be easier to simplify as compared to when we have decimal places. Now we can now simplify this. Okay, we can divide by 2. So when you divide by 2, it's 18. Then when you divide this by 2, it's 27,000. And then we can divide by 3. Okay, by 3 it's 6. By 3 it's 9,000. Okay, then we can also divide by 3 again. It's going to be 2. Then this one is going to be 3,000. Okay, and then by 2 it's 1. By 2 it's 1,500. So we can simplify this further. So we can divide by 5. So by 5 it's 5. By 5 it's 300. And then by 5 it's 1. By 5 it's 60. Okay, so our final answer is going to be 60. Okay, so you can confirm this from your calculators. You can type into your calculators 5.4 divided by 0.025 times 3.6 and check whether you're going to get 60 as the answer. So in this way we have not or our working does not display anywhere that we have used a calculator, but then you can still use it to confirm whether your answer is correct or not. So I believe you have understood that one. So let's move on to the second question, and we are required to express 1728 and 2025 in terms of their prime factors, and after we have done that, we evaluate the cube root of 1728 divided by the square root of 2025. So there are two things here. So the first one is to express 1728 and 2025 in terms of their prime factors. And then after we have done that, we can now evaluate the cube root of 1728 divided by the square root of 2025. Okay, so let's start by expressing 1728 and 2025 in terms of their prime factors. Now, let's start with 1728. 1728. Let's express it in terms of its prime factors. So we can start with the least prime number, that is 2. Okay, so we divide by 2. So when you divide this by 2, it's going to be 8, and then 6, 4. Okay, 8, 64. Then we can further divide by 2. Okay, so we can further divide by 2. It's going to be 4, 3, 2. We can further divide by 2. It's going to be 2, 1, 6. We can further divide by 2 once again. It's going to be 1, 0, 8. We can still divide by another 2. It's going to be 54. We can also divide by 2 once again. It's going to be 27. Now, I think we cannot further divide by 2 because 27 is not completely divisible by 2. So we can move on to the next prime number, which is 3. Okay, so let's divide by 3. Okay, so by 3 it's 9. By 3 it's 3. Okay, and then 3 by 3 it's 1. So we have expressed it in terms of its prime factors. So we can we can write it this way. So 2's, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we have 2 to the power of 6. Okay, so let me count them once again to make sure that it's correct. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. So instead of writing 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 all the way to the 6th 2, we can write it as 2 to the power of 6. Okay, and then we go to 3. So when you go to 3, I can see only 3 of them. So instead of writing 3 times 3 times 3, we can write it as 3 cubed. Okay, that way. So that way we have expressed 1728 in terms of its prime factors. So let's move on to 2025 and let's express it in terms of its prime factors. Now you can also be doing it by yourself as I also do it, and then you can confirm whether what you did is exactly what I have done. So let's express 2025 in terms of its prime factors. Okay, So we can't start with 2 for this case because 2025 is not divisible by 2. So we can move on to the next prime number, that is 3. And yes, it is divisible by 3, so we can divide by 3. So when you divide this by 3, we're going to get 675. Okay, so we can still further divide this by 3. So when you divide by 3, it's 225, and then we can still divide by 3. So when you divide by 3, it's 75. Okay, we can still divide by 3. So when you divide by 3, it's 25. So 25 we cannot divide by 3. So we move on to the next prime number, which is 5. And yes, it is divisible by 5. So by 5, it's 5. Okay. And then 5 by 5, it's 1. So the prime factors of 2025 are going to be, so we have 3. 3s are 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have 2 5s. So, okay. So 2025, we can write it as 3 to the power of 4, okay, times 5 to the power of 2. So we have expressed both 1728 and 2025 in terms of their prime factors. So we are now going to move on to the second part of that question, which is requiring us to evaluate to find the cube root of 1728 and the square root of 2025. So let me clean up some space so that we can get some space. Okay. Now let's move on to the second part. So we are finding the cube root of 1728, and then we divide it by the square root of 2025. Now let's start by finding the cube root of 1728. Now, so what we are going to do is that we are going to replace 1728 with its prime factors. Okay, so we're going to have the root, the cube root of 1728, and instead of having 1728, we're going to write 2 to the power of 6 times 3 cubed, that way. Now, okay, we can also go to the denominator. So instead of having the square root of 2025, we are going to have the square root of 3 to the power 4 times 5 squared. Okay, that way. Now, to make our work easier, we can write this as the cube root of 2 raised to 6 times the cube root of 3 raised to 3. Now this is the same as writing it this way. Now look at this. Okay, let me use smaller figures so that you can see that writing it this way is the same as writing it this way. Now assume we have this problem. Assume we have, okay, let me use a different color so that we don't mix up our work. So let's have it this way. Let's have something like the cube root of 8 times 27. Now we can decide to multiply 8 by 27 and then find the square root, the cube root. So it's going to be 8 times 27 is 216, and then the cube root of 216 is 6. One can also decide to split it this way: the cube root of 8 times the cube root of 27. So the cube root of 8 is 2, and then the cube root of 27 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. So you see, the two of them are going to give us the same answer. Now, this means that for this case also, it will still work. So let me clear this one. I just wanted to demonstrate to you that we can also split it this way, and this will make our work easier. Now this we're going to divide by, we can also split the denominator, and it's going to be the square root of 3 raised to 4 multiplied by the square root of 5 raised to 2. Now I want to take you back to your knowledge about the laws of indices. I believe you have learned something about the laws of indices, but if you have not learned something about the laws of indices, there is a nice lesson that I have prepared for you. All you need to do is go down below to the description of this video. You will find a link that will direct you to that lesson where you can learn about the laws of indices. Now, there's a law of indices that states that if you have a number, let's say A, or let me use a different color. Okay, let's have a number A, and we are finding the nth root of A. Okay, this is the same thing as having A raised to 1 over n. Okay, for example, the square root of 4 is the same thing as having 4 raised to power a half. Okay, the cube root of 8 is the same thing as 1, or rather 8 to the power of a third. Okay, so that is the one that we're going to use for this case. So let me clean up this. So let's go back here. So instead of having the cube root of 2 raised to power 6, we can have it as 2 raised to power 6, and then all these to power a third. Okay, and for this other one, instead of having the cube root of 3 raised to 3, we can have it as 3 cubed, and then all this multiplied by a power a third. Okay, and then we can go to the denominator, and we're going to have the cube root. Okay, instead of having the square root of 3 to power 4, we can have 3 raised to 4, and then all these multiplied by a half, and then times 5 squared, all these multiplied by a half. So how do we proceed from there? Now there's also another law of indices that states that if we have a number A raised to power m, and then all this we are multiplying, or we are raising it to another power n, this is equal to having A and then multiplying the two powers, so mn. Okay, so for this case, using the same law, okay, or I can give you a simpler example. If we have 2, okay, let's say 2 to power 2, and we are multiplying it, or we are raising it to power 3, this is the same as having 2 raised to power 2 times 3, which is 6. Okay, so that is the one we are going to use for this case. Now, so following the same law, we can multiply 6 by a third. Okay, so this is going to give us 2 raised to, so 6 times a third, so by 3, 1, by 3 it's 2. So it's going to be 2 squared, and then times, so 3 times a third, so it's going to cancel, and we're going to have 3 raised to power 1, and then divided by, so for this one, by 2 it's 1, by 2 it's 2, so we're going to have 3 squared, and then times, so 5 squared times a half, so this one will cancel, and we're going to have 5 to power 1. Okay, now I think it looks simpler now. Now we have 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 3, it's 12. Okay, and then we can divide this by 3 squared is 9. 9 times 5 is 40. 45, sorry, not 40. It's 45. Now we can now simplify this further. Okay, we can simplify it further. We can have by 3 it's 4, by 3 it's 15. So our final answer is 4 out of 15. So I see that time is really spent. Let's meet in the next video and we shall proceed from question number 3. Thank you for watching.